Hello everybody, welcome to the TraderMerlin show, your final show for 2020. I thought about doing a show tomorrow, but I was like, you know what, I just need to take care of some business here, and then I'm going to be heading away next week for a little bit of travel time. So cheers everybody. I know it's not whiskey today. I grabbed a nice cold Modelo. Again, I want to thank you all for the support and everything over the last 194 shows I've been doing of TraderMerlin since I left the Power Trading Radio set. So great to be here. You know, the Power Trading Radio, we did over 2,500 shows over the course of almost 10 years. So I don't know if I'll get to that with this show, but we're off to a decent start. 193 since, I think when I started, February 29th or something like that. So it's been fun. Anyway, thank you guys all so much for the support. Hope you had a great trading session out there today, and I hope that you all have a fantastic 2021. Now, I have a lot of questions to get to today. I'm hoping that I can get this show done in under an hour, but we will do our best to get that accomplished. If you guys have questions along the way, feel free to send them on in. As you know, I do like to do live listener chat. And of course, for those of you who have not subscribed to the channel yet, do me a favor, click that subscribe button, because I'll be doing a whole bunch of new content in 2021. I've got some ideas mulling around in my head about some cryptocurrency classes, indicator classes, pattern classes as well. So let's start off with the end of the year show. That's right. As Les says, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you want to celebrate. Let's just all celebrate and be happy and move forward from there. Big Eb, thank you, brother. I haven't even started and you already gave me $10. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Definitely do. And thank you for all the support over the last year. It's been fantastic. All right, let's start off by going into some listener questions. And there's no particular order here. I'm just starting with this one because this gentleman has been sending me in questions repeatedly on this topic, and for some reason I always forget to answer them. So Michael, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is up in Sweden. Ah, yes, remind me to tell you guys my Swedish story. Yes, that's a good one. There's obviously a lot of talk in the cryptocurrency space. You guys saw what's happening with Ripple right now. If you are a fan of Ripple, it's getting crushed right now. Not looking really good. There's regulatory issues there, so we'll talk about that after I get to those listener questions. But crypto right now is probably one of the hotter topics in the financial markets. Miles Davis, thank you as well, my friend. I appreciate that so much. It means a lot to me. The two questions were this from Michael. He says, what is the difference between Jack's phone wallet or other wallets? Which one do you use and why? Which one is secure and which one do you prefer and why? All right, I don't want to come off as a salesman for any particular cryptocurrency wallet. I am a fan of hardware wallets, which is a device that you keep completely offline, not going to get hacked. It's much safer. That would be something like the Trezor, which Brendan uses. I use the Ledger X, which their database got hacked, which is interesting. Cryptocurrencies are safe there, but they got their databases, so I'm expecting a bunch of spam here. The not so, we'll call them warm wallets, are going to be something like your cell phone. And on here I have two different apps. One is called BRD wallet, which I use for my Bitcoin. I have a little bit of Bitcoin Cash sitting in there. So to me that is a transactional wallet that I'm going to be using if I go somewhere and they allow me to pay for something in Bitcoin. I'm going to use that app because I want to further grow the acceptance and use case scenarios for Bitcoin and other cryptos. So I use BRD wallet for that. Is it safe? From what I reviewed when I first opened it, it's never been hacked, which of course is a good thing for me. The other thing about Bread Wallet, which I like, is your private key is your seed. Now, what is the seed? A lot of people, what they will do is you can come up with a phrase. So let's say, you know, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. I think that's the phrase. It uses every letter of the alphabet. You can take all those words, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, put those into an application, a SHA-256 algorithm scrambler really, and it will spit out a address and private key. That's what a lot of people are doing. And with Bread Wallet, when you open up your wallets, and this is probably the most important piece of all of this for all of you, when you ever open up a Jack's wallet, a Bread wallet, Ethereum wallet, whatever it is, you're given a seed key. Usually it's 24 words. Dog, pleasure, sky, things like that. Write those down. Make sure that they are so unbelievably legible that you can't mistake them for anything else, because that is your only access to that information. So with Bread Wallet, they did an update, and all of a sudden I didn't have access to it, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I've got 10 grand worth of Bitcoin on here. I'm pissed. I found my recovery phrase, my seed key is what they'll call it. You type in those numbers, and that basically opened up the account. It's sitting out there. So in that sense, I have the private key. There are some wallets out there, I can't think of any off the top of my head because the two I use, I have control. But some wallets, you actually don't have the private key. Like, for example, Coinbase's wallet. If you're using the Coinbase app, you are just accessing their website. They still have all the private keys. With Jack's wallet and with BRD, you have the private key. So to me, that's critical. Now, which one's more secure? I haven't had any issues with any of them, I'll be honest. No problems there, so I have both of them. What happens if my cryptocurrency, if bankruptcy occurs with Trezor, Paper Wallet, or Phone Wallet? Okay. With Trezor, again, you have the private key. So your only real worry there is that for some reason the software malfunctions or your Trezor gets run over or crushed. If that happens, you use your seed key, which again, make sure you guys write that down and put it in a very safe place. Don't just put it on a piece of paper and leave it off to the side. I'll give you an example why you don't want to do that. So let's say I wrote down my private key, and this is a private key wouldn't look like this, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So let's say you're out there and you're having a good time. You got your private key. I know this is, and I spill a little bit of beer on it or something spilled on that bad boy, and all of a sudden I can no longer read one of the numbers or one of the letters disappears from me. What happens is that now is potentially lost forever. Of course, it didn't quite work. I'll fudge the numbers a little bit here, and we'll just make it look weird. Let's say that's the end result, right? It gets blurry. It got smeared on, and I can't make it out. If you can't make it out, you can't access that account anymore. It's gone. So make sure when you write these seed keys down, anything like that, it is protected at all costs, like you protect your personal finances, because that's your access to your money. If this has happened to me, my Nano Ledger X crashed. It just ceased working, and I was freaking out because I had like 6 Bitcoin on there and like $50,000 worth of Ethereum. I was freaking out. Key here is I had those keys. I thought by reformatting that Nano Ledger S, I would lose everything. No. Nano Ledger S is just a device where you can access it. I put in the seed key. It basically said, here's your address with all the information, all those coins and everything in it. So that was how I accessed it all. Paper wallet. Again, a paper wallet, which I don't, let me see real quick if I might have one in my example drawer over here. I had a whole bunch. Let me see real quick. So here's an example of a paper wallet. I am going to hide, I'm going to hide the private key, but I'll make sure I hide that one. Let me make sure I really hide this thing. Okay. The reason I'm doing this, guys, if I showed you that private key that's underneath my hand, and you can have the first few digits, go for it. Take that. I don't care. You could scan that right now, and it would tell you there's a balance on this. This is a live paper wallet. Now, the danger of what I'm doing right here is I'm keeping this paper wallet in a drawer, and this is worth, I think, right now about $15,000 for this little piece of paper. The danger here, Michael, and for anybody who has a paper wallet, isn't that this company goes bankrupt. All this has done is assigned me a digital address in the Ether, which is Bitcoin's ledger. Just basically, imagine, if you will, a dresser drawer. And let's say at your home, you've got a set of dresser drawers, and there's 6 drawers. Well, with Bitcoin, there's gajillions, right? I believe it's 10 to the 45th power, something like that, number of addresses, or 10 to the 28th power. Regardless, you'd never find the drawer with the information in it. All this does is give you access and tell you which drawer it's in and then the key to open it. That's all these little piece of paper wallets do. Same thing, if you spill something on this, if my dog decides to chew on this and ruin it, I'm screwed. There's nothing that you can do to you can't call up the company that allowed you to print the paper wallet and say, hey, can I get a copy of that? It's not there, right? It also comes down to how you print these paper wallets. Now, if I'm losing people, tell me I'm losing you, and I will do my best to clear it up, because it is it's a little bit weird the way you create these paper wallets. Let me show you real quick how you would create one. I think I've done this to you before. 1 second. I think I can just go paper wallet, and I think I use bit address. Where was it? Yeah, bitaddress.org is the one that I use. So I've used in the past. So here you guys can see this little website. All it is a piece of code. Right now, I'm moving my cursor around. You can see those little green dots that it's making on the right-hand side, and I can move them around. It's putting little dots everywhere. That's actually helping create the code for this private key and address. So once I do this, and this number here gets to 100, which I'm going to cover up just to have fun with it, it'll stop, and now it prints a paper wallet, okay? So what I've done here is I've created a paper wallet, but I think you guys can all understand the risk that I've just created for myself. If you guys did this on your own, this is very dangerous because I'm connected to the internet. A lot of phishing software, a lot of software out there right now, it's not trying to infect your computer with viruses anymore. It's putting something on your computer that will look and see for anything that looks like this and be taking screenshots and sending this public and private key. Because right now, if I send anything to this address on the left-hand side here, which is the public address, which is what you would share and send money to, they now have the private key. So my point is, you shouldn't ever do these on a computer that is connected to the internet. So how would you go about doing it in a safe way? Well, what you could do is if you go up here, there's 3 little dots on your browser page, and you would go and you can say, where was it? You can save as, more tools, save page as, right? So all I do is I simply go save page as, and I put it on a little USB thumb drive, and then I move it over to another computer that I have here that's not connected to the internet. I have an old laptop, doesn't really do much. I just fire that thing up, Wi-Fi is off, it's not connected to the internet, I plug that USB drive in there, and I do the exact same process. I'm now creating a Bitcoin address like you see here, but it's not connected to the internet so nobody can see it. No one's going to get access to it. To me, that is really, really key here. Then what I do is I print those out. And of course, I print them out on a computer that is what? Not connected to the internet because I don't trust anybody with this. This is legit hard money here. Once you're done with that, I would encourage you to put it in a very safe place. I would encourage you to laminate these if you are putting large amounts here. Like I have a few of them that each have 1 Bitcoin on them, right? They're in a safe deposit box. They are in, I'll tell you how paranoid I am. And I know the Fed controls safe deposit boxes, but I'm not too worried about that. When I open up my safe deposit box, I asked them, I said, have there been any issues in this safe deposit room? And the one guy said they had a little bit of a mildew issue because I kind of pressed him for it on the lower drawers. So you think mildew is going to look good on a piece of paper that is so critical? I said, hey, first off, move me higher up. I don't want to be near the floor. And number 2, I put him in a Ziploc bag, and then inside of my P.O. box, you know the desiccant, the little things that dry out so moisture doesn't get into your multivitamins or your clothes. I put a bunch of those packages inside of my safe deposit box so that if there was any moisture in there, it's not going to get in here and get moldy on these things. I know it might be overkill, but I can't take that risk when each piece of paper right now is worth about $24,000, and I've got several of those. That's dangerous. Very small amount of money doesn't mean buying XRP at these prices. I'll get into XRP in a second. That's definitely a big topic, but I want to make sure I got to Michael's story. So we've covered 2 things. We've covered the differences between Jackson and other phone wallets. The bottom line is do your research on these wallets. And then what happens if Trezor goes down, or paper wallet, or phone wallet? Again, with these applications, the ones I'm looking for are the ones that allow me to have my private keys. As long as I have access to the private key, I'm not so worried about the company going bankrupt, as long as I can open up the app and get my private key that is in there or have the seed code. All right? So, Michael, sorry for the delay, my friend. I will do my best to not do that again. All right. Oh, a nice cold Modelo on your last day of work. It's just so nice. What else do I got? Frank, counter trend proposal for commentary, please. He said, hashtag Merlin on CNBC. Yeah, if you saw me on CNBC, if you type in my name and type in CNBC, I was first on back in 2007 when I was in Singapore teaching a class. And then in 2008, they brought me back on. And, you know, I downloaded a copy of it because I'm on video saying if we break 1260 on the S&P 500, break out the bulldozers, we're going down in a big way. And I still, you know, I love the video because in hindsight, I was correct. That video caused me, or that comment caused me to get kicked off of CNBC. Anyway, Frank says, if we drop below 360 on the SPY before the end of the year, get out your bulldozer because we're going down in a big way. Any thoughts to that one? Well, at this point, I think it's hard to say we're going down in a big way because of anything. You have the Fed, you have the government constantly printing and supporting this market. We'll talk about the stimulus joke in a second. It's very rare that I agree with Trump. I agree that he's vetoed this thing. To me, it's a joke, an absolute joke. And by the way, folks, this is not a Democrat or Republican thing. I saw comments yesterday that was saying, oh, well, this is those loony, stupid, liberal Democrats pushed this through. It went through the Senate at a 92-6 vote. 92-6. That means Republicans are signing on to this thing too. So it's not just a Democrat. Both sides of our aisles voted this through in the Senate, and in the House it was 359-53, which means both sides are voting for this thing. It is a joke, in my opinion. You guys can disagree with me if you want. That's cool. We'll discuss that one in a bit. So 360, according to Frank. No, I don't think if we break 360, we're going down in a big way. Not at all. I don't think that would really be that big of a deal. I think that'd be a minor correction. I mean, especially if you look at the percentage moves from where we're at right now. Let's do a couple things. Let's first off look at the year, just so we can see how this year has transpired. And I'm not going to do this for every market, guys, just for the sake of time. I will do it just for the S&P. And I'm going from where we opened, and it's not on snap mode, so let's do it exactly where. And I'm going to do it to where we closed at today. All right, so SPY, you're looking at a 13.5% increase in about 1 year. That's pretty darn good. Now, if we look at it from another perspective, which is what would be the trigger point for a much bigger break, I don't think 360 is a big deal. I mean, honestly, you could hit that by Friday. I mean, it's a half day tomorrow. Who knows? That would be, let me get the exact numbers on here for you, just till we get to 360, that would be a decline of about 2%. That's nothing. 2% is sweat off the brow of the market right now. Now, what might that line be, Frankie, that I said, okay, then we're in deep shit? To me, that's this like 320 mark. Now, of course, that would be a much bigger correction. That'd be about a 13% correction. But you'll notice that for the most part of the past 6 months, it's really stayed above this 320 mark, right? It's bounced, and it's looking solid at this point. But if we do break 360, well, all of a sudden, my eyes are going to be drawn to about that 350 mark. And then from 350... I think you're going straight down to 320. But again, this is all very subjective. It's if this happens. You know, the odds of that happening are well, they're really good over the course of time. But by the end of the year, nah. I don't think he'll break 360 by the end of the year. Remember, for those that like statistics and numbers, and this again, when I talked about Jeff Manson, this is one of the things Jeff loves to point out, are all these crazy little market details. The average market return going back into 1950s for the last 5 trading days of the year, that's next week, and the first 2 days of January, is about a 1.3% gain. That's just fact, and that is just history. Of course, we know that may not be the outcome. Could be much more than that. Could be much less than that. Who knows? But history is definitely a good indicator of what might happen. And the last week of the year, generally bullish because of window dressing, which we can talk about if people don't know what that is. Anyway, I don't see that happening right now. We'll discuss this obviously in 2021. My guess is we're going to see some pullback at some point. The line in the sand to me that really makes a lot of difference is going to be this 320 mark, but I don't see that happening for quite some time. So there we go. Let's see. I'm going to keep running through questions here. I know I haven't looked at the chat here recently. I will do my best once I get through some of these questions because so many people have been asking. I want to make sure I get everybody's questions answered. As I promised, you know, if you send them through at the TraderMerlin@gmail.com, I try to answer them there, but I give priority to the ones underneath the video on the YouTube channel. Michelle says, which symbol would you use to trade gold futures if you wanted to trade the current contract but anticipate multiple rollovers? Well, I mean, that's a good question. There's a lot of different ways to answer this one. And obviously, the first and easiest one for me is just to say, what's your goal and objective? Do you have a specific time frame that you're looking to trade these gold futures? For example, you know, you could be looking at, let's go to the platform here. Let's just say you wanted to go to, here's the February contract, right? Which, I mean, right now you're trading the December, but it's going to be done here in a day. It's just GCZ20. Actually, this one might be done. Let's add on volume here so you guys can see the volume. And you'll know right away the volume. I mean, that's the key. Yeah, so December contract's done. Nobody's really trading this. There's miniature volume here, which means they probably jumped on to the G contract, which is going to be GCG21. Okay, notice the volume considerably higher here. Now, most of the time you're going to go with quarterly contracts, but there are monthly contracts that will start up. I'm not too concerned about the monthly contracts. I like to stay with the quarterly. So I guess it depends on how far out you wanted to go here with this, Michelle. If you're thinking that by August, well, then go trade the Q contract, which is going to be GCQ21. And the only reason you'd be doing this is you're trying to avoid that rollover and the buying and selling of those contracts on those rollover dates. One thing to pay attention to, you notice that this August 21st or August 2021 contract is pretty low volume. I mean, it trades on average about 516 contracts per day. It traded 435 today. Not very busy. You go to something that's going to be more liquid. Let's go to GC. The Junes are usually pretty popular. Yeah, so this is June, which is going to add you a couple extra months on there, and it's already got a lot more volume. So, stick with the big quarterlies. This is the major one, and probably the biggest one is going to be your GCZ21, which you can see not a lot of volume right now, but this will start to pick up. And all you're doing is saving yourself the time of buying and selling multiple contracts if you're caught during rollover. So if you bought the February and you wanted to buy the March, well, you got to sell the February and then buy the March. This way you just buy and hold the one contract. So it really depends on which contract you're looking at and what your time frame is here, Michelle. If you're looking at February, it's the G contract. April is the J. June is the M contract. August is Q, and December would be the Z contract. There you go. Last one, I'm going to dive into some of the... I do have a bunch more, but I want to entertain the viewers out here because you guys are all joining us today, so I want to make sure I get to your comments. Les asked a couple ones. Dark pools. For those that don't know, dark pools are simply order aggregation. They're basically companies that have a database of orders. And it's not like you and me type orders. It's not, hey, I'd like to buy 100 shares. It's, hey, I want to buy 500,000 shares, right? And it matches, it's a matching mechanism that matches buyers and sellers. In most cases, it's going to be anonymous, so nobody knows who's on the other side of the trade. The questions, and there's 3 of them here. First one from Les is, do they place their entire trade in one lump sum, or do they spread it out like the whales? That I don't know. I'm not a big institutional guy, so I've never been an institutional trader, so I couldn't tell you exactly how they do it. My assumption would be, knowing how orders are processed and how you move markets, is they are not doing it all at once. So for example, let's say Les comes to me and he says, hey, I want you to buy me 500,000 shares of GLD. I sure as hell am not going to go to the open market, which is where you and I would transact, and say, market order 500,000 shares of GLD. I'm going to move that thing astronomically with my one order. What I'll probably do is I will probably go and approach some dark pools who my company would already have memberships with or subscriptions to, and I might do multiple pools of, let's say, 50,000 shares at a time. Because when you're doing that big, you could potentially move the market even with dark pools. So I would probably do 50,000 on one, test it out, see if I move the market, kind of fish the waters a little bit before I go in with a bigger share size. But that's how I would do it if I was an institution. Number 2, he says, if we see a small ranging doji with a large volume spike, is that a tradable zone? All right, let me see if I can find an example of something that might look like this. I wish he gave me an example because I haven't really looked for anything like this. Let's see. That's not really a good example. Of course, these are all daily candles I'm looking at here. But let's say you notice right here you've got this kind of small range doji, right? A doji, by the way, guys, it opened and closed at right around the same price, right? So it's pretty close to right where it opened at on the close. And what it basically means is indecision. That's this little red one right here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it off to the right-hand side of the screen, so you guys will only see that on the right-hand side. And there it is, right? So this last candle here is considered a doji, right? Ideally, it would be exactly right. It would be perfect okay, let's use a perfect doji. All right, there you go. That's a pretty perfect doji. Small, spinning top. Spinning top meaning it has a small tail above and below it. That's all a spinning top means. And it represents indecision. Now, Les's question here, if it was a small range day or doji with large volume spikes, is that a tradable zone? Sure, it is. But I think it's more important what happens after you see that candle. So, for example, we had that little one. The next day was sideways. You're really waiting for confirmation of it, right? Part of what we do at Online Trading Academy is saying it's one thing to identify the zone, right? I can run through hundreds and hundreds of charts and look to find the perfect zone. But it doesn't mean that the market's going to do what I think it's expecting it to do, right? It's going to do what it wants to do. So the consideration here is, confirmation. If I get that small little narrow range candle or a doji, as I just showed you, and it has no volume, I'm really not interested anyway. If it has very high volume, that tells you there was certainly some battle going on between the buyers and sellers, and now you're really just waiting for the breakout of it. You could easily put lines above and below it and break it out that way, or most likely go to whatever the zone ranges are, right? You have proximal, distal lines, that sort of thing, which I'm not going to cover here. That's for class. But those zones establish kind of your breakout points if you're looking for the breakout trade, either up or down. So yes, you can get big volume accumulation with very small movement, and that generally means it's been done with a dark pool order. Okay, last one of the three, and then I'm going to the chat panel here. How do we not see a quick change in price? The other day I gave you guys such a great example of this. There was a one candle, I forgot, it was a really obscure stock that I never really heard of, but I was flipping through and I saw it. How do you not see a quick change? Because in a dark pool, it's basically, if I wanted to sell, let's say 500,000 shares of gold, and let me just pull up the exact GLD price, just so we can all be on the same page here. Let's say I have a client, right? And I got a big client and he wants to sell, I'll do 100,000 shares of GLD at 167. Excuse me, 176. I'll put a line on your screen. 176. There you guys have it. Right at 176, that's his horizontal black line. If I decide to put that order out there in the open market and say sell it at 176, well, the open market's going to chip away at that. It could take me a long time to get executed because selling 100,000 shares is going to take a while as it hit it. And what happens is when price does, let me see if I can draw with a pen. Bear with me. I'm going to see if I can bring up my screen and draw on it with a black screen because it might make it easier for you guys to understand how price behavior works. So there's Les's question. Let me go to my drawing mode here and I will make it visually clear. All right, pen. And now how do I make this screen? There we go. Perfect. Oh, this is going to look good. I know you guys have a black screen right now. Don't worry. I'm busting out a pen. It's going to be, well, apparently not. I thought I could draw on this screen. All right, well, I guess I will have to create a blank slide for you and we will do it from there. I know. I'm just the beauty of doing things on the fly, guys. All right, so let me go to the next one. There it is. Okay, where's the pen? So if you have price moving up, so we're talking about price moving up like this, and I think the conversation was a big order. And let's say I've told the market I want to sell 100K. I'm doing this with the mouse at 176, right? That was my price for my client. Anything that I can sell it for above that obviously is going to be a profit for me. So what I could do is I could put an order out there to sell it at 100,000 at 176. What will happen is if this is a bullish market, it's going to go like this. At a certain point, people will see the orders. They're going to be looking at the time in sales and realizing, hey, it's hit 176, and you can tell by the way that it happens, it may not be able to break through. So what will happen is all of a sudden buyers will see that and go, you know what? I'm not going to be buying anymore. And all of a sudden it starts to fall away. This is why they wouldn't go to the open market. But if they go to a dark pool, I can now instantly latch on or sell that. Maybe not 176. I might have to negotiate price, but I can sell it instantly without leaving a footprint on the overall market. The only footprint that will happen will be the transaction that shows up in the time in sales. And Les, if you're here with me, make sure you add in or comment there to make sure that that is clear. The large transaction will just happen off the books and then get reported on the books. Right? It's like an off exchange deal. Then they report it in their specific time frames. I believe it's 90 seconds that they have to report. So if you're using a 1 minute time frame candle, you could get weird prints based off of dark pools and off exchange transactions. Okay. Let's see. What else? What else? Why do you look... So Alan says, why do you look at the ETF versus futures on major indices? No real preference. For a lot of people in their portfolios, they can't hold futures. So we'll do market references to ETFs. There's no doubt. I mean, if you want to trade futures, trade futures. But a lot of people are looking at long-term investments from the perspective of, I can't buy futures in my retirement account or 401k, so ETFs are a way for us to access that market. Should be illegal like insider trading. Steve says, I agree. I think that there should be one focal point for all trade. This is one of my reasons I love trading on exchanges, is because from this perspective, I like the centralization. When I say centralization in this aspect, it just means that all the trades are happening at one point. We can all see them. Over the years, it's happened where more transactions have been moving off of the exchange in big volume. And again, I think that that's just a tactic for institutions to disguise what they're doing and get away without moving the markets. Unfortunately, it's the way that it is now. We just got to deal with it. All right. Let's see, Brennan. Oh, I got to make sure I can't read that last word. I promised people I wouldn't drop the F-bomb on the show, so I can't do that. I can use fudge. Dark pools are just one more way the stock market is smoothed out and manipulated, 100%. Price action should be more volatile, including to the downside, circuit breakers, more like an effing joke. I agree. I think that the manipulation that happens is much greater now because of dark pools. They're allowed to do things. We can't act on it like we would normally. Now, the change here is, and we talked about this with some of these floor traders. When I had Michael Young and Craig Weil in the program, one of the things that I love about their styles is they're constantly having to say, you know what? I knew the way these markets worked. That's past tense. I knew how they operated in the past, and they're evolving. So let me sit back, observe, and figure out how they're evolving. I've done the same thing in my short career in learning how to evolve from fractions to decimals with regards to time and sales and transactions. Back in the 90s, guys, everything was done in fractions. I'm one of the few nerds out there that can tell you without a drop of a hat what 0.0625 is, right? That's 1/16th. Oh, you want to know what 1.25 is? Well, that's 1/8. Or 0.125 is? I knew fractions inside and out because that's my environment, but I had to adapt not only to the language changing, going from fractions to decimals, but also how the market reacted to that. Now I think it's a question of how do you see markets reacting to algorithms? How do you see markets reacting to dark pools? And what does it look like when we see those transactions on the screen? It's not like it completely changed the way that we trade, but there are clues to those footprints of institutions that can be found by observing their actions. And it's no longer it's not that it's no longer, it's just different than it was reading, let's say, 5 years ago when algos were just kind of starting their peak. Now almost everybody's on the big level is using dark pools and algorithms. Yes, Alan, I like to look at both. So those large volume orders right after the close, are those dark pools? Not necessarily. They could be. So when you're talking about a transaction that happens on a stock right after the market closes, if you look historically, let me bring up a chart for you guys. And I know Alex will probably love this one because this is kind of key towards market mechanics. Let's go to a 5-minute chart. You guys see all the volume that happened there at the end of the day? Look at the volume at the bottom. This is a 5-minute chart of GLD. It was, trading along, averaging about 45,000 shares of GLD traded every 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden it was 10x at the close. There were some big orders that came through right at the close. And if we went 24 hours, some of these are block trades, right? Notice that this was the last 5 minutes of market. Okay. You guys notice something weird? See where my cursor is? There's a vertical line right there. It goes right to the giant green candle. The volume down below is right around 400,000. But notice that the biggest volume spike on GLD, it's after the market closed. Now, remember I told you there's a lag time. I believe it's 90 seconds that off-exchange transactions have to be reported. So those could have happened on dark pools. They could also have happened between market makers, right? Just end of day wrap-ups they didn't come across the ticker in that last 60 seconds of market. There was a little bit of a lag. They shut up afterwards. And this is kind of normal. I mean, you see this quite regularly where you have big volume spikes right at the end. Let's go to the open. Let me zoom out a little bit so it doesn't look as weird. All right, you can see when the open, it's normal. You get the floodgates are open and we're off to the races. Pick a different symbol. You guys want to let's look at Apple. You can see all a bunch of Apple lovers here. Same thing here. Notice Apple. Nice sell-off right at the end of the day. My cursor is on the last 5 minutes of the trading session. That's it. But you'll notice that the biggest spike of volume by a gigantic margin happened after the market closed. And that's because A, dark pools, and B, late transactions coming in. Because there's such a frenzy at the end of the day to fill those orders. Batista, happy birthday, says, can you look at MTA? MTA. What would you like me to look at MTA? Volume-wise, you can tell it's very thinly traded, right? This is nothing noteworthy with regards to volume. It wouldn't even make my radar because its average daily volume is 366,000 shares. That's way too illiquid for me. All right, now as far as a chart pattern goes, looks good. It looks great. You know, there's a lot of different things you could do to help confirm your trade here, right? I think most of viewers out on this would be looking at it going, all right, I can see I've got a series of higher lows in conjunction with a series of higher highs going up. Great. You could put moving averages on this. You could put Bollinger Bands on this. You could put all kinds of different indicators. They're all going to be telling you, stay long, right? It's like our current market. Let's go, let's put in moving average, 2 lines. I don't know what 2 lines I'm going to look at here, but if I'm doing a 5-period moving average or less, it's going to be pointed down. Everything else should be pointing up. Well, there we go. So I've got, this is what, long term? This is a 200-period moving average and a 50. 200's in red, 50's in blue. I'm going to change the 200 to a 20, and it's going to be a much steeper line, right? Because it's been accelerating to the upside. And there you go. So, you know, this looks good from a just buy the trend and go with it, Batista. My only problem is it's a little bit illiquid. It's too thinly traded for me, which means it probably has a big spread, and it's a fairly cheap stock. Okay, cool. Let's see. What else did I have here? Let me go to... And if you guys... Again, I'm going to start focusing more on the questions in the chat. So if you got them, feel free to send those on. And I know Ripple is a major one that you guys want to talk about. Let's see. Alan says, despite lack of transparencies, do you see it growing in prominence in the future? Alan, with regards to what? Sorry, I covered a lot of topics. What growing in prominence? You talking about the use of dark pools? No, I think that it has its utility, if that's what we're talking about, is dark pools. I think it has its utility. I don't see it growing. I think that it's already being utilized the way that it's intended to be utilized, and I can't see the whole market going that way. Yeah, no, I think we're good there. I'm fraction impaired, decimal, please. Yeah, I know. Gotta love the Americans, right? We like to keep our weird fractions. The metric system, we don't need that. All right, Alan says, how can you tell whether a dark pool is a buy or a sell? Does it matter because a seller and buyer are both huge? Remember, every transaction is both. It's a buy and a sell, which, you know, to some extent negates the effectiveness of watching price action, right? You're saying, oh, well, here comes a large buy order. Yeah, but somebody sold that. So bottom line is someone was right and somebody was wrong. With dark pools, it's interesting, to me anyway, because statistics show that the average retail trader loses money in the financial markets. So when you find something that the institutions are doing, you follow that because the retail guys are wrong normally. But dark pools are not retail orders. These are institutions, and maybe they're processing it for clients who you'll call those the retail. But I don't know. I don't think that there's a big benefit there of understanding that was a buy or a sell order. It's just saying here was a major transaction. Somebody's making a big bet one way or the other. Now, I wish that we could have access to those orders and see who is actually behind it, right? Was it some guy just selling for a hedge fund because his clients redeemed? Well, that's a retail order. Great. That would actually tell me that was the dumb money selling and is probably going to end up moving to the upside. All right. And again, keep those questions coming, guys. I will do my best to dive into those. Let's see. More questions. And I had a couple here. Let me go to the question page. I think we're past that one. We already went through that one. Okay, Otto down in South Africa. Thank you, my friend. You're on a different time zone today. I don't think you are here today. It says, which time frame is best for swing trading cryptos? Explain the factors that drive pricing of cryptos, and why did cryptos sell off so heavily in March 2020? Well, I'm going to start at the bottom here. And I think part of the reason that crypto sold off so heavily was just a flat-out panic run. See you later, GD. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic holiday. I think the main reason you saw them sell off was a flight to cash. People were all of a sudden freaking out that the virus is bad, it's the end of the world, we're going to see layoffs, and I got to pull money back. Want to go more liquid. I think that was part of it. Explaining the factors that drive cryptos, that's the same thing as driving stocks, but amplified on steroids. What I mean by that is it's all supply and demand. That is, without a doubt, the major equation piece here. However, because for most of these cryptocurrencies, there's very few currencies outstanding. So, for example, Bitcoin. We'll only have 21 million maximum. 21 million, right? I mean, that's a drop in the bucket. You know how many shares of Microsoft or Intel or Apple there are? It's way more than 21 million. So to get your hands on one, it's more challenging for something like Bitcoin, or you go to 84 million for Litecoin. But they all have different volume amounts or coin amounts. So to me, supply and demand makes a major difference in the crypto space because most don't have a float, if you will, of outstanding currency that's substantial to accommodate large demand. The second part of it is whales and institutions. I mentioned this before, and I think that this is actually very unique to this space. And Brendan, you probably love it for this reason. If you look at the dot-com bubble, that bubble was formed because institutions brought all these companies to market. They put hundreds of billions of dollars into dot-com companies, did the IPOs on them, did all this great PR, and pushed those up as high as they could get them. Then, because they moved so much and because of all the hype and publicity, the retail public was left holding the bag because they came in and bought this overly inflated asset. What's so bizarre and unique and exciting about crypto is it's the exact opposite. Institutions, the big money, has been saying, that stuff's scary. You stay away from crypto. That's not real money. That's fake. And the retail population has been driving it up. So instead of having the dot-com bubble, which was institutions push it, dump it on the retail investor, they're all screwed, and the institutions made the money, retail investors got screwed. With crypto, and this is why I'm so bullish on it, I know Brendan is as well, is because the retail people, like myself, like Brendan and others, have been buying this. We've been buying into crypto because we see the potential. And who knows, down the road it may come out to be a house of cards. I don't think so, but it could. There's always that possibility. Now all the naysayers, which for the dot-com bubble were actually the people, not the institutions. Now the naysayers are the institutions, and they're now coming on board. So to me, that's what's driving it. And I think you'll have much more bullish moves to the upside in crypto because of that paradigm shift of retail versus institutional buyers. Now, the other part here is regulation, which goes right into Richard's comment here. He says, would you sell Bitcoin and purchase XRP? No, I did just the opposite. I sold my Ripple at 63. Thank God I sold Ripple at 60, like 3 days ago at 63 cents, and it hit 31 today. It's like, gotta love it. Brendan says, totally inelastic supply. I have to comment on this one because it's true, but it's not true. I know. Make up your mind, Merlin. Well, this requires another frosty cold sip of Modelo here. Now, if we look at what Bitcoin, I'm going to use Bitcoin as the example. We are taught that Bitcoin has a maximum of 21 million coins and there will never be more than that. And that is true to a point. That's what's in the code. However, if the organizers, the foundation behind Bitcoin collectively agreed to now offer 42 million Bitcoin as opposed to 21, could they do that? Yes, they could do that. Now, I'm in the 99% category that they won't do that because that's part of the lure is this defined supply. So it's all code and it's open source. So you can change these things. I don't think it'll change with Bitcoin. You look at other ones like Ethereum, it's infinite supply. There's no ceiling on it, right? So as you're choosing a crypto to invest in, you got to understand what the supply factors are. So right, and here's where these numbers get just astounding and why you have to look at the actual amount of coins available. A lot of people now are going, Ripple's cheap. Man, Ripple at 30 cents? This is a deal. Is it? There's only 45, well, let me go back to Bitcoin. 21 million ever. Litecoin, 84 million ever. That's their maximum ceiling. 84. Ethereum right now is at 113 million, and every day they're growing more, so there's no ceiling. But they're still in the 100 million category. How many Ripple exist overall? I'm just curious for you guys to throw it out there. I know Brendan knows, but now that I'm going through numbers, it's critical for me and for you when you buy something, whether it's a stock or a cryptocurrency, to know how many shares are available. Because too many people put the onus on price and go, oh, well, Ripple's 35 cents, 31 cents. That's a steal. It's not. It's absolutely not. Let's see. What else? Anybody know how many Ripples are out there? I'll tell you the number that's in circulation right now, which is less than the total available, right? That's ever created. Right now, there are 45 billion Ripple. So basically, if you want to do that, you just basically move over your decimal point 3 places, right? So you're now saying that if you had Ripple pared down to the same amount of coins right now as Bitcoin, then Ripple would be trading at about at current price, about $620 per coin. If there was the same amount of supply, right? There's 45 billion in circulation. There is 100 billion total. 100 billion. That means that 55 billion Ripple are still being held by the Ripple company. It's crazy. And so again, how many of you heard the price of Ripple and go, oh, well, shit, that's cheap, right? I mean, let me show you the price chart. Let me make sure I bring it up here. This happens all the time, and it's just the logic, the way our minds are taught to think. You look here at this list, and you're going, oh, Ethereum, $589. I'm on the left-hand side for those that can't see my cursor. You're going, oh, Bitcoin's too expensive at $23,370. Well, it's expensive, but you don't have to buy a full coin, guys. You can buy a fraction of it. You can buy 7 decimal places. It's called a Satoshi. And that's what Big Eb pointed in the chat there. All right? You look at this one and you go, wow, Ripple? 28 cents? Man, that's a deal. No, it's not. And of course, here's the big challenge. If you look at what is happening today with Ripple, and not just today, and by the way, I was gloating earlier when I talked about the sale here. I mean, I like to consider myself a pretty decent market timer. I told you I sold at 63, which is where the cursor is at, right there. It's in the system, was a stop. Took me out, and I was like, okay, I got out. It's now dropped 50% in 6 days. Wow, more than 50% in 6 days, right? Conveniently, for those of you who like to look at long-term charts, it's right at the origin of this big move. I mean, look at this thing. This is going back into November. You go back into November and October, it's only trading at 23 cents, 24 cents. And we're almost back there. We actually just hit 20 cents on. Let's see, the low today was 21 cents. Anyway, I'm hoping that that's all very, very clear here, that a cheap price doesn't mean it's cheap. Right? I could tell you a stock has is worth 1 penny, but it has 100 billion shares. Is it cheap? Well, relative to what? Give me a good company, like give me a Microsoft, and see how many shares are out there versus its valuation. Of course, that's going to be a high valuation too, but I'm hoping that you guys get the point here. Always look at, yes, it's a cheap price, but how many of these individual tokens or coins or shares are there? That should be your determinant. That's market capitalization. Like the difference between Tesla and Ford in price. How did... yeah. That was a weird one. And that goes to volume, right? So let me real quickly show you the difference here. Let's go to Yahoo. I'm just going to do simple Yahoo Finance. You guys, this is one way to check out stocks. Let's go Yahoo, and I'll go to Finance. And then I'll tell you about what the heck is going on with Ripple. Because Ripple... I'm happy I dumped it. Long term, yeah, it might have a chance. I don't think it's going to die. I'm seeing a lot of people thinking it's going to die. But let's go look at Ford, since that's what Big Ed was asking about. Ford versus Tesla. So you look at Ford. First off, you notice the crazy market capitalization here. $35 billion market cap. Only 35. Wait till you see Tesla's. I'm writing some numbers down here. The other side of this is I want to go to statistics. And I want to see, is it statistics? Here's shares outstanding. Okay, shares outstanding, 3.9 billion. That's for Ford. Now let's go check out Tesla. Now you guys know Tesla's going to have a much, much, much fewer shares, right? It's trading at 645, let's call it $46. Yowza, All right. Market capitalization. Let's do market cap first. 600 billion. That's crazy. It's 20 times as big as Ford. And Ford's been around forever. Statistics. Here's where it gets interesting. All right? It's less than $1 billion. You have 947 million shares. 947. So let me bust out my handy dandy calculator here. I think I can actually do this on the side screen. Let me do it real quick. So I've got 3.9 and I've got 0.9. All right. So you're looking at it. It's 4 times. If I was to divide Tesla's share price by 4, so let's call it 650, cut that in half, you're looking at 325, cut that in half, you're looking at 160. Share price of Tesla should be $160 if it had the same amount of shares as Ford, but it doesn't. But see, and this is just the simple breakdown of shares to outstanding price. Ford's trading at $8.99. Which one of these looks overpriced to you guys? Tesla, in a monstrous way. All right, so let's circle back here. We talked about valuations. We talked about understanding the number of shares versus price and why that relationship is critical to understand. And man, I didn't realize I have 8 minutes left. If you look at Ripple, basically the SEC is coming after Ripple and saying, you know what, you are a security. You're not money or currency, you're a security. They already said that Bitcoin and Ethereum are currencies, but now all of a sudden they're backtracking. And I think what's happening is they're trying to grandstand and make an example of somebody. Kind of like what the FTC, I think, personally did with OTA. A lot of the material that was in that lawsuit was absolute crap. BS. And of course, when they got to the point of going to court, the SEC is like, you know what, we'll just settle because we want to go to court. Anyway, you look at what the SEC is alleging, and it's basically alleging that these were securities that needed to go through a whole bunch of different procedures, and they raised $1 billion. I think it's grandstanding by the SEC to try to make an example. What should be nerve-wracking for everybody is how far the SEC pushes this. You know, my money's on Ripple because they've got billions and billions of dollars right now that they can use to throw things around and get some great attorneys. You think you have 55 billion shares. Let me just do the simple math here. I think 55 billion shares. And it's currently trading at, let's say, 0.3. All right, so in your vaults, you should have equals, yeah, I know my math skills aren't that bad, and I just happen to have an Excel spreadsheet here. Times that by this one. That's $16.5 billion in their bank account that they could use now for attorneys. I'm pretty sure if Johnny Cochran would still be around, he'd be like, if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. You give me some of that $16 billion, they can find some good attorneys. It will be an interesting fight. What makes it worrisome is how intense does this go? Does this bring on regulators that are now going to look at the cryptocurrency space, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, all these different companies, and say, you know what, you guys are all securities, and now we have to do a whole different regulatory process. Regulation could certainly be a double-edged sword. On the one side, it could absolutely crush the industry by putting too many rules and regulations that a lot of these companies would not be able to meet the hurdles or the acceptable practices. On the other side, by having regulation come in, it basically says that if you make these hurdles and you can comply with all this, then we put our stamp of approval on you. Now all of a sudden that opens the doorway to, does it become SIPC insured? If it's a security, or SPIC insured, do I get that? Right? Do I get that insurance on my portfolio now? I certainly would love that. So, you know, there's wins and losses here, but it will be an ugly fight. And I think right now, Ripple is just getting its teeth knocked in because many people are dumping it. I still have some in another account, but I'll keep those ones because it's long-term hold. But this is the environment that we're in right now. Ripple certainly under a lot of heat. Regulators now going to start looking at it. It's become one of the major topics and headlines. I think it's government abuse of power, personally. Yes. And Big Ed says, it's an outgoing SEC chairman causing trouble on the way out, most likely. That is true. He's on his way out, and it's like, you know what? I'll just throw these parting shots across the bow. If something bad happens because of it, hey, I was out. If something good happens, it'll be the end of my legacy. I'm like, yeah, I caused all that. So it's really, really bizarre. Jackie Childs will take that case. That was a good one. Okay. Not ready for another bear quite yet. I'd have to go after every ICO project individually. Good luck with that. Yeah, they would have to. You're right. But what they would probably do is try to put more regulations on the ICO market, which I don't have a problem with. I think that there should be some rules there. You guys might remember from back in the power trading radio days, there were literally 12-year-old kids in their garage creating an ICO and selling it as something. I mean, I actually thought about, just for fun, creating the TraderMerlin coin. But I was trying to think, like, what benefit would it provide? Like, how could we use the TraderMerlin token? Maybe I'll do you guys all the pre-sale and I'll airdrop you millions of them. But what would we use a token for? Any ideas? I'm hip to the idea. It would actually be kind of fun to have a TraderMerlin token. Why not? I can create it. I can create it right away. The issue is finding an exchange to trade it on. But I don't want to just create something dumb like that for the sake of creating it. I'd like to have a use case scenario. So if you guys have any ideas for that, let me know. It'd be interesting to maybe create our own little cryptocurrency, and then we can kind of follow that one and see how it goes. All right, what does Brendan say? And the U.S. regulators are arguably the most backwards in the world. Yeah, well, we're pretty... Hey, if you can pay our regulators, then it'll do what you want it to do. Alex, I don't think that's a good use case for this one. I will probably not be doing that on this show, but you could, with the gains from your cryptocurrency, you could probably do that. Larry, you're here with us. All right. You guys, I get to go out and have dinner with Larry tonight. That's right. We're going to go break some laws. I'm going to go have dinner out in public. Alan said, oh, yeah, Alan, do you invest in anything other than Bitcoin, real estate, stocks, etc.? Alan, I'll tell you this. I am a fan of anything that if there's an opportunity out there to make money with it, to potentially invest in it. For example, I have baseball cards. I invest in baseball cards. I've got a pretty darn good whiskey collection, which I think is actually going up in value. Big Eb says fish posters. I know I need to change. New Year's resolution, I'll change the fish posters. I may actually try to do a green screen to make it look nice and professional. But yeah, I invest in a lot of things. I've been doing real estate a long time. Probably, let's see, the first house I bought in real estate was when I was in college, which would be 1992. And I was at Sac State when I bought that place. So that was 1990. So I've been in real estate for 30 years, and largely due to my dad. My dad's a real estate agent in Sonoma County, so if you ever want to buy a house in Sonoma County, he is the man. I mean, this guy knows, you can talk about knowing your territory. He is one of the best real estate agents I've ever had, and I've dealt with a lot of them. I've had a bunch of agents in Texas. I had agents down here. Most of them, they're just trying to make a quick buck. My dad's pretty damn good. So he taught me the right way to operate, the questions to ask, etc. So I'm definitely a fan of real estate. I'm a fan of rental income. I just hate tenants. I had some problems with tenants years ago, and I kind of said, forget that. But yes, I trade futures, I trade options, I trade Forex, both spot and futures. I trade cryptocurrencies. I trade, what else do I trade? I think that's pretty much it. I got pretty much all in real estate. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thoughts regarding the real estate bubble? At this point, I think it's going to continue to inflate. Why? Because we have rampant stimulus and the Fed doing their best to keep rates low. As Bill Addis pointed out, with the real estate market, I think that the challenge will be what happens in the next couple of years. Can the government continue to print money and support people who are not going to make their payments willingly? I think you're getting to the point now where a lot of people are going, I can pay my mortgage, but why the hell would I? I can get forbearance and get all my payments delayed. And then if they can't kick me out, they can't foreclose on it because I'm protected now because of these new rules and mandates. I don't know. To me, I think you'll get a harder implosion when it finally does. Just my 2 cents on it. But right now, I think it's going to keep going. I don't see the 10-year spiking to 8, 10, 12% anytime soon. Could it get to 3, 4, 5%? Yeah, sure. I mean, we're at 3 now. 4 or 5% might slow things down a little bit, but I think that you're going to see the market continue to rally to the upside. Let's see. Let's see. So well diversified. Yeah, I'm diversified, but I'm more active than most people, right? I'm not really looking at sitting on investments for a long time, which is a problem sometimes. Shorter-term traders generally don't fare as well as long-term investors because markets go up over time, and shorter-term investors are usually churning their accounts. Lots of transactions, and then ultimately it chips away at your long-term gains. Now, let me, I had these numbers drawn up here. I was just kind of doing the math in my head, and I thought I would share this with you guys. I mentioned at the end of yesterday's show, I want every one of you to grab a calculator, and just times the number of people in America, and I put it over here. This relief package was supposed to be, and I have to change this number because it was actually 908. And by the way, if you guys saw President Trump's speech last night, that was such a crock. By the way, he combined two spending bills. He combined the stimulus package and the omnibus spending account, which is a typical government spending package, and he put them into one to slander the relief package. That said, the relief package, in my opinion, is a joke. Start at the top. If you took that $600, so this 328 million number right here, that's the population. Now, of course, we all know that out of those 328, let's round this up. Let's just be generous and just say that we increased our population to 340 million, right? I'm adding on a little bit here. Here we go. So it's 340 million people. At $600 a check for every single person, you're looking at $204 billion. $204 billion. Well, where the hell is this other $704 billion going to go? Well, $325 billion to small businesses, which I think personally is a scam. I've got great businesses here in Southern California that are shutting down because they're following the rules. I've got these bars on 17th Avenue, like the Wild Goose Country Club. All these bars are supposed to be shut. They were shoulder to shoulder this weekend. Shoulder to shoulder, no masks. So those people, and they're going to get PPP money. The scumbag owners of these places, I mean, I get it. You don't want to follow the rules. If you stay open during this time, you shouldn't get PPP money. The people who follow the rules and don't create incubators for COVID, like Wild Goose on 17th and Country Club. Anyway, so that's getting $325 billion. $82 billion for schools. I'm all on board with that. I think schools need more money. Public health and vaccination. I have a hard time believing it's going to cost $69 billion to vaccinate America, but okay. Transportation, 45, fine. Rental assistance is 25 billion, great. Food assistance, 13 billion. That leaves us with a total of $763 billion. Well, what's interesting is if you take that number and you subtract it from this, that means that there's an extra $145 billion that really isn't that itemized. There's stuff that just somewhat disappeared in that, which is remarkable to me. Now, here's the biggest joke of the day. I actually tried to find it, guys. I made a Halloween costume a couple years ago called Space Force. When I heard that they're going to have a Space Force, which, let's be honest, Guardians of the Galaxy, are we kidding here? Where's Groot, right? I mean, aliens aren't attacking us. We don't need Space Force. And I know it's about other countries. But $2 billion for Space Force, $35 billion for clean energy research and development. I'm actually okay with that. I'm on that camp of that $35 billion will be new jobs created. So I'm okay with that. Want to know what the other crap that got snuck in on this? This is a relief package, folks. A relief for you and me. And I don't care whether it was Democrat or Republican that snuck this crap in, but we're signing this document and it's going to be approved, potentially. West Virginia gets a national park out of the deal. What the hell does that have to do with stimulus? Nothing. The United States Postal Service is now banned from mailing electronic vaping products. Well, how do they know what they're mailing? I mean, Unabomber was sending all kinds of crap. Vaping pens can be hidden in there easily. How about kilos of weed being shipped border to border? Is that illegal still? Several changes to the copyright laws. They're decriminal. This is the beauty of our lawmakers and ineptitude there. By the way, 5,000 plus pages, right? I actually have it. I downloaded the, do I have it right here? I downloaded the whole 5,000 pages to kind of breathe through and check. It's 5,500 pages of legal garbage that you would probably never want to read ever. So what other weird stuff is in this? Get this. The decriminalization of various minor violations, including, get your pens out, people, because I don't want you guys to go to jail for this stuff, the transportation of water hyacinths, alligator grass, and water chestnut plants across state lines. This is supposed to relieve me how? What benefit? Oh, so, man, I had a business in smuggling water chestnut plants into Nevada, but now I'm going to be decriminalized. That's great. My business is bad. Also, the unauthorized use of Smokey the Bear logo, Woodsy the Owl, and the Golden Eagle insignia. That was a minor offense that they were charging people for. That's relief. Also, requirement of carbon monoxide detectors in public buildings. Okay, I'm okay with that. And this one I made a joke of yesterday. The establishment of anti-doping program for horse racing, as well as a new racetrack safety system. The list goes on and on and on of just bizarre stuff. I think stimulus, and I'm going, damn it, Tom. I told you this is the last show. I'm making up for the next 6 days. I find it remarkable, and I'm actually kind of happy that Trump raised the red flag here, and it should be changed. If this was in fact going to be a stimulus, it should really go to two places. It should go to small businesses, and it should go to the American taxpayers. Right? To me, that's where it should go. Of course, most of you in here probably aren't going to get any of that money anyway because you make over $75,000 a year. But regardless, I saw some of the stuff, and I didn't believe what I was reading at first. I actually downloaded the bill so I could check, and I did a Control F and found all the areas in the report that talked about this stuff. It is actually really, really, really crazy. It was nuts. All right, I think that I'm going to leave it here with this one. This was actually one that, it wasn't Ken. There is Tom, who's in here trying to tell me to get off the air today. Tom sent this one, and I didn't format it right. And this is kind of the world we live in. I like the comment. He goes, buy options on futures, on crypto, using currency, US dollar, in your trading account. Kind of weird the way that's working. I mean, it's true. It's people's urge to make a lot of money very quickly, and you're using a derivative on a derivative on a, not even a derivative of a digital asset using a fiat currency. It's bizarre how much that weird cycle goes on and on and on, but it happens repeatedly. How big is that file, Chris? I don't know. If you want it, I will send it to you. Right? I didn't download it. It's actually a URL. Here's the URL to it. This is the bill itself, so you guys can see. If you want to scope through it and read 5,500 pages, try not to bore yourself to death. But you can validate some of these weird, bizarre claims in here, and it's just, first off, to be honest, do you think it would take you 5,593 pages to itemize how to spend $908 billion if it's supposed to go to two entities, businesses and people? Find that to be just crazy problem with our legal system right there. It causes a blue screen of death on most CPUs. Great. You guys, you got any last minute questions here for me? Any last minute ones? I want to make sure I get to all your listener questions here, and I think I have. Yep, I got back to all of them. So I will leave it there hanging. I don't have any economic calendar stuff for tomorrow. As you guys know, tomorrow is a half day. So make sure you note that one. It'll probably be extremely, extremely low volume. So I would just take tomorrow off, guys. Take Thursday, Friday off. And then remember that next week, volume actually starts to pick up. It's definitely lower than a normal day, but it's way more than the Christmas week. You'll usually have, volume increase right into the end of the year because of window dressing. The window dressing is where companies are selling losing positions and buying winning positions so they look better in their portfolio. It's a common tactic done in the industry. It doesn't really benefit them in the long term. It actually hurts them in the long term, but that's what happens near the end of the year usually. So that's why you see volume increase that last week as people are finally making those last minute allocations to the long-term portfolios. Am I a net buyer or seller of options? You know what? I don't have the numbers. I'd say I'm probably 50-50. It really depends on what it's looking like. I can be a heavy buyer and I can be a heavy seller of options. I love selling options. I think that's probably one of my favorite things to do. There was one other here. Bummer. Discard that. I would prefer, if I could, I would just sell options all day long, just because I like the consistency of it. To me, that's probably the best way to go. Chris, yeah. Merry Christmas. Well, you know what? Merry Christmas, guys. Happy holidays to you. I hope that all of you and your family and friends stay safe out there. I'm hearing more and more cases of people that I know getting COVID, so I'm probably going to try to lock myself down a little bit. I will be going out to Zion and hitting the great outdoors in the middle of winter. So I hope that you guys all have a fantastic holiday. Again, thank you for the support for the past 9 months. We've been doing this, actually 10 months now, since we started back in February. It's been fun. I'm learning as I go. So if there are changes, and I read every email, I may not respond to all of them right away. But if there's things you'd like to see different on the show, maybe new segments, maybe new guests, maybe new sets, maybe new, I don't know. Let me know what it is. I'll try to incorporate it in. This whole thing has been just kind of a fly by the seat of my pants idea and creation that I've just run with every day. This is, I think, show 194 that we've done so far. So again, thank you guys all for your support over the years, over the holiday dinners and stuff. Tell your family and friends about it. Hopefully we'll get our viewership up to, so I'd love to have it where we had like 1,000 people live every day. That would be fun, but got a long way to go to get there. Anyway, happy holidays, everybody. Take care. I will see you in the new year. Take care.